Taro price regulators could be the answer if government is to continue to subsidize the cost of the bulldozer to clear areas for plantations. Honourable Premier Toke Talangi said his government wished to provide some resources to people.
We were looking at removing all subsidies, but also looking at using those funds as well as some additional funding that we're still trying to identify and looking at long term to give the money to people so they can decide what they wish to do with it. If they wish to spend that money on bulldozing, that's entirely up to them. If they wish to use that money to pay for the taros, it's entirely up to them. If they wish to use that to go fishing, that's their choice. In essence, what we're saying to people is that, look, we believe that the subsidies are sector specific, in other words, it's fishermen, it's growers and so on, when in fact we should be providing these resources to people, the money to people, and saying to them, well, you decide what you wish to do with your money. And that's the way that we're looking at it at the present time. In relation to the current subsidies, there's got to be some mechanism for controlling prices, otherwise it's a thing, and this is the other thing that we've discussed with these people. Without a subsidy, then I don't see any reasons why we should be looking at any controls at all. I'm not in favour of controls, to be honest.
And how will the new initiative be implemented?
It's going to be paid out in people's pay, so you get it every fortnight with your pay.
Farmers' negative response to government's change to the hefty price of more than $200 an hour for the use of the bulldozer saw representatives of growers try to negotiate with government. Those negotiations continue, but some of the options government is trying to consider include the remuneration. Border security and technological standards need to improve if Niue wish to develop further with trade and customs operations. Experts from the region are on a scoping mission with the Customs Department in a regional effort to improve customs capabilities in both technology and a review of the aged Customs Bill. According to legal drafter for projects at the Oceania Customs Organization Secretariat, Mayor Po Fa So, Niue is fortunate it is still relatively free of criminal operations.
No longer are we just focusing on revenue collection. We now have to also ensure that we carry out trade facilitation, travel facilitation of the legitimate travelers and traders, as well as to also ensure security of our borders from various social as well as physical threats from the outside. So OCO, which is the Oceania Customs Organization Secretariat, is tasked with bringing reforms within the region to its members to actually counter all these new threats that are coming to our borders, as well as to facilitate these free applications that customs need to perform at the border. And I've been working with Sione and these people and closely with the SG as well when she's available to try and put together a piece of legislation that will assist Niue to be able to not only economically thrive as well as internationally, but also to secure your borders against threats or unwanted people or goods and cargo that we do not want to enter into Niue or anywhere else in the Pacific.
He said there must be a robust legislation to ensure there is security for Niue, and the cooperation between countries in the Pacific can assist within the region.
Economies of scale versus countries that are very small. And this is something that is not only particular to Niue alone. It's something that we share all across the Pacific. However, despite our sizes, we still need to put in place certain standards that will assist us in protecting our environment, protecting our way of lives, preserve and conserve like our heritage areas as well as our customs and traditions. And that's why we have to put in place some of these international standards or best practices. We're realizing more and more that no longer is one country an island. We're part of a regional community and then an international community. And because of the fact that the borders in other countries like our more developed neighbors New Zealand, Australia, they're more secure. Their regimes are more organized. Some of these people who trade in illicit goods or trafficking contraband, they're looking for weaker infrastructures to exploit and to move their illicit goods through. And most of these goods, they do not leave the country where it transits, because in order to ensure that they continue that trafficking route, they have to ensure they have a few users who will possibly be the persons who are assisting them in moving some of these things. So I think the focus now within the Pacific is no longer is Fiji looking after its own borders, no longer is Samoa, Cook Islands looking after its own borders. It's now more along the lines of we secure Niue's borders from Samoa, Niue secures Samoa's borders from Niue.
Niue's head of customs, Sione Poko Sione Tama, said there has been changes to trade and goods operations, including people, and Niue must also ensure there is a legislation to govern customs operations. Niue's 1966 customs legislation was an act from New Zealand. The customs bill is expected to be in draft format in a few weeks, and procedures for the bill to complete before submission into the House of Assembly will take place. The water tank construction facility that has been built near the Public Works Department is nearing completion. Director of Environment Sauni Tongatule says that funding for the project has been sourced from various donor organizations. Initially, the PAC project was to be funded by the Global Environment Facility through UNDP. However, funds were insufficient to include all households. Additional funds were then received from AusAid and the European Union through the SPC GCCA project. The project to construct and install 400 water tanks will start in November once the facility is fully completed within the next few weeks and materials are shipped up. Shop Export was the successful tenderer for the construction of the building, but the actual tank constructions will be done by New Zealand-based company Callaway's. According to Sauni, the company will begin construction of tanks in November and are able to complete in between 8 to 10 tanks a day. Environment Department are also reminding household owners to ensure that spoutings are completed before the tanks are installed. The department also has plans to further utilize the facility for future projects, such as waste management to mold wheelie bins and perhaps septic tanks. Public servants are reminded to ensure that their conduct does not bring the service into disrepute through their private activities. The popularity of social media sites such as Facebook has seen a number of cases where people have been reprimanded for comments posted on the site. Niue Public Service Commission says although these may be considered as private comments, any comments relating to work-related policies and unprofessional conduct should not be tolerated. The use of foul language, intimidation or unprofessional conduct could be grounds for disciplinary measures by senior management, but depending on the severity of misconduct, the Commission may be called upon to make a decision. The reminder is for all public servants to be mindful of their positions within the public service and the level of professionalism and conduct expected of them. And to end our news bulletin for tonight, some people were caught slightly off guard on Tuesday with the early arrival of the plane. With daylight savings commencing on Sunday the 30th of September in New Zealand, this has affected flights to Niue. Daylight savings now means that Niue and New Zealand are on the same hour but different days, and that flights on Tuesdays and Fridays arrive at 5 minutes to 1 in the afternoon. Air New Zealand agents Plenty's Travel reminded passengers on Monday to make note of these changes and that check-in time starts early at 8:30 a.m. in the morning. Tuesday and Friday flights will depart at 5 minutes to 2 in the afternoon and arrive in New Zealand at 15 minutes to 6 late afternoon. Passengers travelling out are reminded to make note of these changes to avoid any disappointments. That's our news bulletin for tonight. Good evening.